All right. Testing. No haste. Level 12 enemies. 100 HP plus on each one of them. Let's see. Okay. That was one Eldritch Blast. Holy. Do another one. We're not even critting. Alright, another one dead. And I think we even missed the blast there. Jesus. We got another one. Alright. Well, there we go. Alright. As you can see, this build absolutely slaps. But, unfortunately, it only really comes online once you get to Act 3 and get all the goodies in there. So until then, we're just going to be a pure spellcasting sorcerer because they're also pretty damn good. In this guide, I'm going to show you the level progression, what gear to use, and how to play the build. And so, without further ado, I present to you the Eldritch Blast Demon. Alright. Like I said, before we get to the Eldritch Blasting, we're going to be starting off as a sorcerer and staying here for quite a while. Now, before I say anything about what spells to get and what items to use and all that, all of this stuff in this video is just my opinion, really. If there is a spell or an item that you think is better for you and your playstyle, then by all means do you. I'm just going to show you what worked for me and my BG3 playthrough. Alright? Here we go. So, level 1, Sorcerer. Bang. For the cantrips that I would choose are Firebolt. You know, it's a reliable damage source, and fire is very useful in this game for combining with grease or oil to fire things up, you know what I'm saying? Or break walls or whatever. Firebolt, solid. Next one, Friends. Friends, you gotta have it. Friends can be used in any type of dialogue. And yes, it can lower the attitude. Sometimes you see negative attitude, but if you just run away, by the time Friends runs out, then it doesn't really matter in the first place. So Friends, you want this for that dialogue, you know, to pass out the dialogue checks. It gives you advantage on everything charisma based. So yeah, Friends, you gotta have it. Next is Light. Light is something that is just useful all the time. I like to just cast Light every long rest. Once I wake up, cast it on my weapon, because why not? Or cast it on, you know, your tank, you know what I'm saying? Or cast it on an item and throw it somewhere. But actually, Light, we're going to be using Light later on to be using on our weapon all the time for good reason, and we'll go about that later. But Light, solid cantrip, especially if you're gonna go into the Underdark. Not everyone has night vision. You can help them out too. You know what I'm saying? So, boom. And the last cantrip that I would choose, now, this is really interchangeable, right? But Mage Hand, if you don't know how to use Mage Hand is pretty OP. Really just early game, right? When you don't really have much to work with. Mage Hand can be used. I used it mostly to just throw around stuff during combat, out of combat, you know. Like oil or grease or candles. You know what I'm saying? Mage Hand is pretty useful early game if you learn how to use it. So these are the cantrips that I would choose for a level 1 sorcerer. All right. As far as the spells go, pretty standard spells here. Magic Missile, probably the best level 1 damage spell. Not because of how much damage it does, but because of the reliable damage. When you're low level, your stats aren't too high and you don't have much items. So when you make attack rolls or when you cast spells that require a DC, it's pretty easy to dodge them. You know what I mean? But Magic Missile, it always hits. So at level 1, you definitely want to have Magic Missile as a spellcaster. And of course, the next spell that we get is Shield. Spellcasters are known for being very squishy, and Shield pretty much negates that. So I would definitely start with these two spells. Super useful. And yeah. And for the subclass, we are going Draconic Bloodline. And the bloodline that we choose is red, because it comes with burning hands, and 2, we're going to be a fire sorcerer. All right, we're going to be fire themed for about 9-ish levels, okay, before we can switch to the Eldritch Blasting. But yeah, and the reason why we picked Draconic Bloodline Fire Ancestry is because, you know, once you reach level 6 with this subclass, all the fire spells gets a boost from your charisma bonus. And for now, we're going to be all charisma, all fire, all sorcerer. And with a few items that you can find pretty early in the game, it's pretty crazy. Okay, so boom, Bloodline, red, match the theme. And of course, we're using our boy Will here because he is the Warlock when we do make that Eldritch Blast switch. You know what I mean? As far as the stats go, if you plan to use the Hag Hair, which gives a +1 to any stat, you can get that relatively pretty early, around level 5-ish. We're going to have Charisma at 17 to make that into an 18. And then, of course, your first feat at level 4 will be an ability score increase, which we'll talk about a little later. So you'll have 20 Charisma if you choose the Hag Hair extremely early, which is a huge boost in your damage because it'll work with Eldritch Blast. It'll work with your spell DCs. So, yeah. And of course, there really isn't a secondary stat that we need much. So the common secondary stat for most characters is Constitution. We get Constitution here as high as possible. And I actually made a little bit of a mistake. This should be 14. We want Dex to 14 because we want that +2 to AC, +2 to Initiative. And the reason why I had it here in Intelligence is because normally spellcasters are they're the ones that make the Arcana checks or the Religion checks. So that's why I had the Intelligence there. So you can switch that over here. Really doesn't matter, you know, but you want to make sure you have high Charisma, high Con, medium Dex, and that's it. That's really all that matters. As far as the skills that go, again, you're the spellcaster. You probably don't have another wizard in your party, so I'll just choose Intelligence stuff like Arcana, History, Religion. They're pretty relevant in the game. You can find some stuff, right? So boom, that's level 1. All right, so for level 2, as a sorcerer, the spell that we're going to pick up is Chromatic Orb. And the reason why we pick Chromatic Orb over anything else is because it does the most damage out of the level 1 spells besides Magic Missile, but it combines really well with Twin Spell. Twin Spelling a Chromatic Orb early game, and you land both hits, that's a lot of damage, bro. You pretty much just took out 2 monsters in 1 combat, okay? So Twin Spell, and of course the meta magic is what sorcerers are known for. So I would pick Twin Spell. You get to pick 2 at this level. I pick Twin Spell, again, for the chromatic synergy there. And I would also pick Distant Spell. You can pick whatever you want, though. We're not going to be... Extended Spell is good, but we're not going to be doing any surface or enchantment spells. And we also don't really have Fireball, so Careful Spell doesn't really matter. So I like to use Distance so I can, you know, keep my distance. Because you definitely don't want to be getting to melee range as a spellcaster, okay? At level 3, we're going to pick up Scorching Ray, our next fire spell alongside Firebolt. And Scorching Ray, if you land all attack rolls, does quite a bit of damage early. And because we're picking up Scorching Ray, we can replace Chromatic Orb with Misty Step, another very, very good early game spell. Good throughout the game, really. You know what I mean? So there's that. And of course... The best meta magic sorcerers have and always will have is Quicken Spell. It costs 3 sorcery points to use, but it allows you, like for example, if you want to do a Scorching Ray on your action and bonus action, Quicken Spell allows you to do that, okay? And Quicken Spell, we are going to be using the absolute hell out of this, especially once we get our beefy spells later. But for now... we'll Quicken Spell a little bit here and there, you know. The thing about sorcerers is they're really good at burst, but sustained damage they kind of lack, at least early game until we get some really, really good stuff that I will talk about. But yes, Scorching Ray, Quicken Spell, replace Chromatic Orb, Misty Step, that's level 3. At level 4, we're going to choose another cantrip, and that's going to be, for me, Minor Illusion. If you haven't tried using Minor Illusion, it's pretty good. It's just a distraction. It's a distraction for you and your crew to steal stuff or to get a better positioning during a fight. I don't know. It's just a nice distraction. And of course, enemies during a combat have to make a check towards this, like an ability check, and if they fail, they're gonna think this illusion is like, you know, a threat. So I think Minor Illusion is pretty damn good if you use it correctly. Okay, but again, everything is interchangeable. If you don't want them to heal, Bone Chill is pretty good. If you want some poison stuff, Poison Spray. If you want some ice, you want some lightning, whatever you want. But I like using Minor Illusion. Okay. As far as the spell that we get, so in D&D, if you're a spellcaster, this is what you normally want. You want to concentrate on a spell, and then you want to use other non-concentration spells to like stack on top of them. That's like a normal round of D&D, all right? So for this level, I like to choose a concentration spell, and I like damage, so I chose Cloud of Daggers. Cloud of Daggers doesn't look good because it's a small AoE, but the good thing about Cloud of Daggers is it does damage when you first do it, when you first are into the Cloud of Daggers, like when you first cast it or when they first enter it, and it does damage at the beginning of their turn. So it's kind of guaranteed double damage, low key, right? So I like Cloud of Daggers. It is a small AoE, but you can choke point a lot of enemies in this game because even in Tactician, they're pretty stupid. Okay, so I like using Cloud of Daggers, but again, you can do whatever you want. If you don't want to get hit, you can get Blur. If your team needs some advantage on their checks, Enhance Ability is good. If you don't have a lock picker, Knock is good. If you want some invisibility, Invis is good. If you need some CC, Whole Person is good. There's a lot of good stuff here, all right? But for me, I like damage. I'm going Cloud of Daggers. And like I said, concentration, you can only concentrate on one spell per time. And we're going to replace this later with a better concentration spell that rhymes with paste, okay? Anyway. So Cloud of Daggers is what I would choose as my concentration spell for now. And we're not going to replace the spell because all our spells are pretty damn good. See, that spell list is looking pretty nice. And of course, the feat that we're picking, nothing fancy here. Ability score improvement, +2 charisma. And again, if you have the hag hair, your charisma will already be 20 at level 4. Crazy. All right. Level 5. This is one of the best power spikes in the game for any class. Really. You know, there are some classes that get extra attack. You know, there are some classes that get crazy spells, like this one. And the crazy spell we're going to get is the classic D&D, not huge AoE, but a lot of damage, Fireball. Fireball. Classic spell, okay? And, I mean, there's not much to be said here. Fireball. Imagine double fireballing at level 5, doing an average of like 20 damage per hit. That's crazy in an AoE. Yeah. And of course, because we have access to level 3 spells now, we're going to replace the Cloud of Daggers that we just got, because we just got a better AoE attack. Okay, we're going to replace that with a new concentration spell. And what is it? You guessed it, haste. All right. So at level 5, your combat is gonna, if you're in a big battle, it's gonna look like this. Boom, haste. And if you have an elixir of pure focus, I would use that too. An elixir of pure focus gives you advantage on your concentration checks. Okay, and sorcerers do come with a proficiency in concentration checks, so you might not even need that. But to make it safe, I would do that. Okay, yeah. And then once you're hasted, you get 2 actions plus a bonus action per turn. That means 3 fireballs at level 5. I don't think you have enough spell slots to do that, but if you do, that's crazy. 3 fireballs at level 5? that shouldn't be allowed, but that's what it is. So bang. That's why instead of Eldritch blasting right at the beginning of the game, why not just be a sorcerer and flame everything? You know what I'm saying? So boom, level 5. Crazy power spike. All right, at level 6, we get a few things, but the most important thing at level 6, with our subclass being a draconic bloodline of red, we now get elemental affinity for damage. And that basically now adds our charisma modifier, which is +5, including the hag hair, to all our fire damage. And guess what? We only do fire damage, especially with fireball, scorching ray, firebolt. Yeah, it's pretty nuts. And then you get this, of course, which you only really need to use if you're inside or if you're facing a fire enemy, but mostly we're here for this. Elemental affinity damage on top of everything it's pretty nuts, okay? And the spell that I would choose is Counterspell. Counterspell, now of course you want to normally be using your spell slots for Fireball, but if you Counterspell their Fireball, that is just as good. You know what I'm saying? So getting Counterspell You want to use this wisely. Again, you want to use it on another probably level 3 spell that does a lot of damage, or like a silence, or like a darkness, right? Something that'll really fuck up your party. If you get having counterspell this early is very useful. So for this level, I would choose counterspell. And as far as replacing all our spells, we're not replacing any of these spells. This is a perfect spell list, because if you run out of the level 3 slots, Scorching Ray, run out of level 2 slots, Magic Missile. You're probably going to be using your level 1 spell slots for shield mostly, but if you do have some extra, Magic Missile plus an item that we're going to get later, it's pretty good. Okay, so boom, level 6. At level 7, we have now unlocked level 4 spells. And of course, we have a new concentration spell that we're probably going to be using over haste now, because it basically stacks on top of Fireball. Wall of Fire, baby. Wall of Fire. It's a concentration spell. The way you use Wall of Fire is you click the spell, you click a spot, and you click another spot to connect to it, and it creates a Wall of Fire. Okay? A concentration. So normally you would use this you either want to land it on top of as many enemies as possible, because it does damage to them, and whenever they walk through it, right? So you want to do that, or you want to just put it in front of a doorway, so to get to you or your party, they have to walk through the Wall of Fire. So it's a great damage plus control spell. And again, combining this with a Fireball, everything gonna die. All right. So Wall of Fire, level 7 for sure. And again, we're not replacing any of these spells. They're all useful. They're all damage. We've got some movement speed and some haste. The spell list is too good. So that's level 7. At level 8, as a sorcerer, we're going to pick... Well, I picked Dimension Door. It's another movement speed spell, mobile spell. You combine Dimension Door plus Misty Step, which you can both do in a turn. You're out of there. If you want to get out of combat, you are out of there. All right. And of course, you can also take an ally with you. You can save people, kind of like the Prison in Act 3. Just a super useful spell. I think Dimension Door is the longest traveling spell, like teleport in the game. Misty Step is like a little bit less than it. All right. So yeah, I would take Dimension Door. It's also not a concentration spell, so it won't get in the way of haste or Wall of Fire. But again, do whatever you want. Other really good spells are Banishment, which is another concentration spell, but it is a charisma save, and because your charisma is probably 20 by now, most characters in this game, including your party, don't have high charisma. All right, so if you banish something, it's probably going to work, and that you can basically take a boss out of the boss fight. Crazy. Okay, other good spells. Greater invisibility. Okay, if you got a person in your party that thrives being invisible, this will make them perma invis if they have like a rogue that has expertise in stealth and sleight of hand. They can steal and do whatever they want. They will never be uninvis. So you can cast this on them and just make them even more powerful. You know what I'm saying? Or if you're tired of using fire, get Ice Storm. Ice Storm it doesn't really do much damage, like as much as Fireball, but it covers a much wider AoE. So, and of course, if you find some things that are resistant towards fire or nullified against fire, you're gonna want to need another spell type. You know what I'm saying? Another spell suck saver suck, polymorph, bang, stone skin for tanky stuff. There's a lot of good spells, bro. There's fly. There's fear, drop their weapon and make them run away from you and have disadvantage, and you have advantage. Hypnotic pattern, huge AoE if you're against like 10 million rats, which happens a couple times in this game. You want some lightning damage. Anything is you, bro. I think that one of the best CC spells is slow, because it works on 6 enemies, making them literally slower, so they have less to do on their turn. So if you're looking for some CC, I would choose slow. But for me, I want Dimension Door, because now my spell list is looking like damage plus mobility plus a counter spell. This spell list is pretty fucking solid at this point in the game. Nothing can touch you or your party if you have this spell list. Trust, I've done it multiple times. All right, and of course at level 8 we get a feat, and the feat that we're gonna get for this before we respec is Elemental Adept Fire. Assuming your charisma is already at 20. at this point in the game, you're going to run into a lot of things that are resistant to fire. Okay, and if you get this, you're basically you ignore resistance, so you kind of double your damage. All right, so you want to use that. Bang, level 8. Okay, level 9 sorcerer. This is the level just before we respec, because at level 10 we're changing the whole thing. Okay, but at level 9, this is what I would do as our last level as sorcerer. So there aren't really much damage options for level 5. I would still probably use fireball or wall of fire over cone of cold. You can check it if you want, you can use it if you want, you know, it does a little bit more damage, but I mean, with your draconic bloodline red being red and all, you probably still want to use fireball. All right, what I would choose is either hold monster, which is just an upgraded version of hold person, because hold person only works on humanoids. Hold monster works on creatures, so like it's a much broader set of things that this will work on. And of course, everything that's being held gets automatically critted by your allies, which is crazy. You can take, if there's one boss with like 1,000,000 HP and you hold them, they're dead if you hold monster them, right? So hold monster is solid. Telekinesis is also pretty good. You can literally yeet someone off the map. I've done this. It's actually pretty funny. You can yeet your teammates too on some troll shit. Okay, this is good. Wall of Stone's also pretty good. If you literally want to wall a part of the battlefield, splitting it into 2 parts, you can do that. You can do that with Wall of Stone. All right, assuming they can't fly over it. But yeah, there's a bunch. You could also just go back and choose some other shit here. But I would choose hold monster. It's super good. You already have the AoE covered with your other spells, and if you want some single target damage, you hold them, and they can't do anything. All right. And again, I wouldn't replace any of these spells. This is a solid ass spell list. So that's level 9. And now let's get into, once we get level 10, you should be in Act 3. Okay. And we'll go over what items you need for the build, but at level 10, it's the respec time, and this is how I would do it. All right, so for the respec, we're still actually gonna start out as sorcerer, okay, at least for the first 4-ish levels. All right, and the main reason why we want to do that is because sorcerers have proficiency in constitution checks, which again is very important for us to be concentrating on a spell. Okay, but there are a few minor differences that we're going to change, because we're going to go from fire to lightning. All right. So pretty much I just replaced Firebolt with Shock and Grasp. You don't have to do this, but I did it more for the thematic thing. Okay. Because we are changing from fire to lightning. So the Draconic Bloodline, same thing. We're going from red to blue. I get a little Witch Bolt there. And of course I'm also going to change from red to a little teal there, to a little light blue on my guy Will over here. Same stats though, just a little different in that. Okay. Now I'm gonna go through this much quicker than I did the other levels, but then once we get to the multi-classing classes, I'll take a little bit more time on those. Okay, level 2, same stuff. Chromatic Orb, Twin Spell, Distance Spell, good enough for me. Okay. All right, we hit level 3, we get level 2 spells. I would just pick Misty Step here instead of Scorching Ray. We're lightning now, so the fire spells we're just throwing them out the window at this point. And of course, we want to pick Quicken Spell again, and we want to replace our Chromatic Orb with probably Hold Person, or you can keep Chromatic Orb, because with Chromatic Orb you can turn it into a lightning ability. So I'll just probably keep Chromatic Orb here, but in case you want to do some more useful things, you can just change it to Hold Person. Doesn't really matter. Next level. All right, level 4 sorcerer. So we're actually going to stop leveling as a sorcerer here for a little bit. And we're going to choose the same cantrips. Minor Illusion, useful. We need a concentration spell, Cloud of Daggers. I actually just replaced Hold Person with Chromatic Orb because of what I just said. And of course, the same feat, +2 charisma. You should have 20 because of the hack here, okay? But now, it's time to multi-class. Here we go. Okay, so just in case you don't know, because some people actually still don't know this, to multi-class, on the level up screen, you're going to see on the top right of your level up page right here, boom, it says add class, bang, and the multi-class we're going to pick is, of course, Warlock, because we are now going to become an Eldritch Blaster. It took 10 levels, but we got here, okay? And as far as the cantrips go, Eldritch Blast, we already have friends. just pick anything as your second one. It really doesn't matter. Just go Bone Chill just in case you need someone to have the enemy stop healing. I don't know. For the subclass, we're going to be picking the Great Old One. Not because of its spells, but because of its feature. Every time you land a crit, the creature and enemy nearby enemies might get frightened. They have to make a save, which is against your spellcasting modifier, which at 20 charisma should be a lot, so it's pretty damn good. And with Eldritch Blast at this point, Eldritch Blast has 3 blasts per attack. So critting on those 3 blasts, plus your charisma and plus your items, there's a good chance you might crit. So, more a reminder, you'll be frightening things almost every round. All right. Spells. I mean, it doesn't really matter here. You can go something like Armor of Agathis. You can add Hex to that. You don't have to use Armor of Agathis. You can use Hellish Rebuke for that reaction. You know what I'm saying? But I would mostly just get Hex here just to focus down a single target. You know what I mean? So our first multi-class is a dip into Warlock, and we're actually going to be doing another level of Warlock right here. All right, level 6, level 2 Warlock subclass. Just pick up, Armor of Agathis or whatever you didn't pick up the first time. Just make sure you have Armor of Agathis, Hellish Rebuke, and Hex as the spells as a Warlock. And this is the last level we're picking as Warlock, by the way. And the reason why is because we're only here for 2 levels because we want 2 very important things. Warlocks, sorcerers come with meta magic. Warlocks come with Eldritch invocations. And there are 2 very important invocations that we're going to be looking at. One is Agonizing Blast, which pretty much adds your charisma modifier to every Eldritch Blast that lands. So it's +5 to every Eldritch Blast that lands. And if you're attacking 3 Eldritch Blasts per attack, that's +15. Is a lot of damage. So Agonizing Blast plus a certain robe we're getting later that literally stacks on top of this. It's a lot of damage. Okay, so boom, Agonizing Blast, and of course, Repelling Blast. You can actually go with Devil Sight too if you're the kind of player that likes to do the whole darkness thing. But this is more for solo play. You don't really want to be casting darkness for your teammates because they probably don't have Devil Sight. Okay, so if you're in a team, I would pick Repelling Blast. If you're solo dolo, I would pick Devil Sight. All right, but Repelling Blast is good because, especially in Baldur's Gate, there are a lot of times where you can yeet someone off the map. Okay. And with Eldritch Blast, it's even more special because they can't make a save. If they are not immune to being knocked back or prone, Repelling Blast will push them every time Eldritch Blast lands. And again, at level 10, Eldritch Blast can land 3 times in one attack. So they can get thrown off the map. Enemies that have like a bunch of HP can be dealt with immediately. With Repelling Blast. So I would recommend Repelling Blast here. Even if you're solo, at this point you should be strong enough anyway to not have to use Darkness Devil Sight. But Darkness Devil Sight is a classic D&D combo. If you want to use that instead, then by all means go do that, okay? And we're not replacing any spells here. Now that we're done with Warlock, let's go multi-class into another class that's probably might get changed in the future. It might get balanced, but for now, we're using it. And it is Rogue. Yes, Rogue. Wait, we can't apply Sneak Attack to our Eldritch Blast attacks. True. Well, sometimes true. The game's kind of inconsistent with that. But we're not here for the Sneak Attack. We're not here for the Uncanny Dodge. We're not here for the bonus actions that rogues can do. Granted, those things are useful, but we're not here for that. We're here for the subclass, which we'll get to in a second. But yes, our third multi-class will be going into Rogue. And as far as the abilities go, just pick the intelligence ones because, as a spellcaster, that's what you probably should be anyway. If you're assuming you're not the face of the party, okay? Roll level 2, bonus actions, bang, bang, bang. Pretty useful stuff, honestly. But again, we are here because next level we get the subclass for Rogue, and the game already picked it for me because it knew I was going to choose it. Thief. Why do we get Thief? If you don't know by now. So one of the classic D&D subclass multi-classes is Fighter 2 for Action Surge. Baldur's Gate 3 decided to add the same thing, okay, except for bonus actions. And the Thief subclass, I mean, it literally gives you an additional bonus action. Kind of crazy. And of course, we're going to use this to fire off another Eldritch Blast. Okay? Now, I know what you're thinking. Can't you just do Fighter 2? True. But that's only for once per short rest. All right? With the Thief subclass, you can do this per round, assuming you have enough sorcery points, assuming you have the correct items, and I will guide you there. All right? So I think going Thief 3, 4 or 3 Rogue into Thief is crazy for any build. You're probably going to see a lot of builds out there, including mine, that'll have dips into Fighter and Thief, because having an extra action or having an extra bonus action, this is, I think the term is action economy. If you have a bunch of those, yeah, that's kind of overpowered. Okay, and that's what we're going to be focusing on with this build. We just want to keep casting as many Eldritch Blast as possible and doing as much damage as we can. Okay, so again, Thief 3 Rogue, bang bang. Okay, but we're not done with Rogue yet. We're not done with it yet. We want to stay with Rogue for another level to grab that feat. And nope, this time we're not going to grab Elemental Adept and pick Lightning instead. We're not going to do that. We're actually going to go a little bit higher and pick Dual Wielder. Huh? Dual Wielder? And the reason why is because this allows us to dual wield staffs. And there are 2 very particular staffs that give us a good bit of lightning damage. Okay? And of course, we'll go over those items in a second. But first, let's finish off these last 2 levels of the build, and then we'll go into the item progression. So now that we've dipped into Warlock for our Eldritch Blast and Rogue for our extra bonus action, we're going to finish off the build by going back to Sorcerer. And at level 5, we get level 3 spells, but instead of Fireball, we're going to be picking Lightning Bolt. Because like I said, we are now lightning themed, and the next level into Sorcerer is going to give us our boost in lightning damage, right? Okay, so just like Fireball, we want to pick our Lightning Bolt here, replace Cloud of Daggers with Haste. All right, boom. And then, of course, because we're a level 6 Sorcerer, we get our boost to all our lightning damage. Okay, so that's +5 on every bit of lightning damage that we deal. And trust me, we're going to deal a lot of lightning damage, not only through spells, but through items. And we'll go over that in just a sec. As far as the last spell that I would choose, just use Counterspell. Counterspell, again, you probably want to be using your spell slots for Lightning Bolt or replacing them with sorcery points so you can Eldritch Blast more. But having Counterspell for that moment when the enemy wants to cast their own Lightning Bolt is extremely useful. So I would, again, just pick Counterspell here. And of course, I would not change the spell list at all. You could change Chromatic Orb for a little something different if you want. I like having Chromatic Orb because they give us actually, Chromatic Orb doesn't do anything for us. I just realized, because you would rather just be using Eldritch Blast anyway. So yeah, I would change Chromatic Orb and Magic Missile out for 2 other spells. Something like something really useful like Fear, Flight, Pattern, Slow, you know what I'm saying? But to be honest, it doesn't really matter, because what you want to be concentrating on is Haste. Okay, so you can Eldritch Blast as many times as possible in a turn. So these spells don't really matter, because once you get to this point in the game and you have the items that I'm going to explain, you'll just be killing everything anyway. So yeah. Anyway, now that we're done with the build, we gone over the first 9 levels. The first 9 levels are pure Sorcerer. The RESPEC is at level 10, going 4 Sorcerer, 4 Rogue, and 2 Warlock. Finish off to level 12 with level 6 Sorcerer, and now we have 6, 4, and 2 Sorcerer, Rogue, Warlock, and that's the level progression. All right, with all the spells and whatnot listed. And now we're going to go over the items. Okay, and the items for this build are what really make it go online. The items are the reason why in the beginning of the video we were able to take out 3 100 HP targets with 3 Eldritch Blasts. And we still had more turns, by the way. So we could have fired off 2 more Eldritch Blasts. So this build basically deals 500 damage in a turn on average. Okay. But with that being said, let's move on to the item progression. All right. Oh, look at these guys. They're dead while I was doing that whole thing. Anyway, so here we are, level 12. Our boy Will, you know what I'm saying? Level 6 Sorcerer, level 4 Rogue, level 2 Warlock. And here are the items that I was using. Okay. So for our helm, Birthright, pretty simple choice here. Okay. Again, it's really easy to get your charisma up to 20, but if you want to bump it up even more, you add this, which you can get from the vendor at Sorcerer Sundays at the library in Act 3. Very easy to pick up, but you want to make sure you buy stuff from that vendor before you interact with the guy upstairs, because I believe some of those items disappear. I'm not sure. I don't know if they fixed that. But Birthright can be easily obtained through a vendor. Sorcerer Sundays, the little projection in the front. You say trade, bang, buy it, and it's pretty cheap too, from what I understand. And you're probably wondering, how did I get my charisma up to 24? Well, there is the House of Grief, which is in the top left of Baldur's Gate. Okay, of the map. The House of Grief, that's where I got it. It's a part of Shadowheart's story. I don't wanna spoil on it, but over there you can get +2 to any stat. You can only do it once, I think. You can get +2 to any stat, and you can give up -2 to a stat. So I gave up -2 strength to get +2 charisma, making it permanently 24 charisma. But the what's even better is that -2 strength was just a curse. All I had to do was remove curse off of that thing. But it's called the Mirror of Loss in the House of Grief. If you don't know where it is, Google it. This is not that kind of video. I'm not going to show you where things are. I'm just going to show you guys the build and my general idea of how to get those things. All right. So boom, 24 charisma, crazy Birthright. This adds on top of, again, and the reason why it's important that we get as much charisma as possible is because of Agonizing Blast that adds our charisma modifier. It's because our Draconic Ancestry, again, adding our charisma fire to our charisma damage to lightning damage, and the combination, again, Potent Robe. Now this robe is I wasn't able to get this because I had to actually look up a guide to get this. Pretty much you want to keep Alfira alive. Okay, Alfira is one of the tieflings that you can interact with. I think early in Act 1, she's next to Druid Grove, okay? And you want to make sure she stays alive because she grants you this robe if you save the tieflings from the Moonrise Tower prison in Act 2. All right? Again, if you want to finish this quest, go look up a guide. That's what I did. But it adds your charisma modifier to your cantrips, which includes Eldritch Blast, which stacks on top of Agonizing Blast. I know it's crazy, but it actually works. And this is every item that I'm wearing right now is easily best in slot. Okay, so, and of course, there's a nice little secondary effect here. At the beginning of the wearer's turn, the robe activates, granting them temporary hit points equal to their charisma modifier. Our charisma modifier is +7 with a 24 charisma. So every round you're getting +7 HP. If you're constantly taking damage. So crazy robe, best in slot, easily for sure. As far as the cloak goes, we're going with Cloak of the Weave. This is your classic go-to spell casting cloak if you're a spellcaster of any kind. And then you can get this from Helsik, which is the vendor at Devil's Fee, which is very close to the House of Grief, actually, to the right of it. All right. And I believe it's also to the right of the Baldur's Gate waypoint, north of the Lower City waypoint. All this is from memory. I've played this game a lot. 300 plus hours, Jesus Christ. Okay. But you can get this off of Helsik. I think you got to go through some dialogue with her though, because at first she kind of hides that she has good items, but eventually you get you build some rapport, and then she has some good items like this one, which just gives you +1 bonus to your spell attack rolls, which is what we're looking for, because we want to make sure we're landing these Eldritch Blasts and we never miss. Okay, so Cloak of the Weave, pretty solid there. Potent Robe, bang. As for the gloves, I should probably be showing Oh, okay, so I'm going to show optional items and item progression after we explain all the items. All right, that's fair. Cool. Sorry, guys, my first video. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, the gloves that I'm wearing are the quick spell gloves. So the quick spell gloves allow you to cast a cantrip as a bonus action once every short rest, and you should be taking a short rest after every fight anyway. So this pretty much activates every battle. And yeah, because we are a thief, we have 2 bonus actions per turn. Use this instead of your sorcery points to save your sorcery points, and it's just solid. It just gives us another attack. Just really good gloves. And you can get this. Where the hell do you get these again? Shit, I think these are also at Sorcerer. There are a lot of good items in Sorcerer Sundays. I constantly go there to pick up items and scrolls, over there get refreshed every long rest. So if you didn't know that, there you go. But I'm pretty sure these quick spell gloves can be found at Sorcerer Sundries as well, if I'm not mistaken. If not there, then some other vendor. I know it's from a vendor. But these are best. These are one of the best in slots. There are optional items that could work as well, which I'll go over a little later. But these I found to be the most consistent as far as damage goes, and yeah, I'll rock these. As far as the boots go, I mean, if you guys have played this game enough, you know that these boots are kind of best in slot for every build, really, because there's not too much to think about. It's just really good boots that give you Misty Step, and you can't be enwebbed, entangled, and in snares, and can't slip on grease or ice. So it's just really good, mobile, and of course every class can wear it too, because it's not like a medium armor or any type of anything. So these boots are just pretty good for every single build. And you can get these off of Nier, which is in the Underdark Grim Forge. That's the guy trapped behind that big rubble that the gnomes are trying to dig out. You can either just keep taking long rests until he dies off of poison, or you can break him out and kill him on spot. Either or, whatever you want to do, get them off of Nier. These boots can be used throughout the whole game. You can get them early too. Crazy. Here's where the lightning damage starts to make sense, because you're probably wondering, okay, why are we going blue sorcerer? Because Marco Heshkir, I don't know how the fuck to pronounce that. This can be obtained again Sorcerer Sundays, and it's really easy to get. All you got to do is go up to the big guy's room up top, Larokin, fly down to the secret area, quote unquote secret area, super easy to find, and you have to pass some intelligence arcana checks, I think, which again you should be the intelligence character, and just keep trying. The game lets you keep trying it too. It's not like a one or pass, so you don't even have to save scum. So you can keep trying to pull the lever to get this item plus another item, which is really good as well. But yeah, you can get this pretty easily in Act 3. And the reason why we get this is we combine it with the Spell Sparkler, which you can get super early in Act 1. One of the first blue items that you get in the game. You combine this with that, and they both give you lightning charges, because this item has Kareska's Favor, which and it has a bunch of elements here, but you would use Bolts of Doom because that lets you add your proficiency bonus to your lightning spells or your spells that deal lightning damage. And because we use lightning charges, which we gain from this and the Spell Sparkler, our Eldritch Blast will be doing lightning damage on top of its Eldritch Blast force damage. Okay, so a combination of these, we generate a lot of lightning charges. So this allows us to do the whole draconic blue lightning thing. Okay, but we're not done just there. That's not where the lightning damage stops. We combine this with this amulet. This amulet's actually kind of inconsistent. But when it does work, it's a lot of damage, okay? And you could, if not this amulet, you could use something like the health amulet to get advantage on your constitution checks. You can use the +2 save DC one. You could use the spell slot restoration one. You could use the Misty Step one, which is on another character, magic missile, whatever. But I like to use this amulet because when it does work, it does a lot of damage. And basically whenever you do one of your cantrips deals lightning damage, which is our Eldritch Blast, you add your spellcasting modifier to the damage dealt. So it's kind of what we're doing here is we're stacking our charisma modifier to add on to our attacks, because we have Agonizing Blast from being a warlock, we have Potent Robe, okay, we have Marco Heshkir, okay, and then we have this. So our charisma modifier +7 is being added like 4 or 5 times for every single time Eldritch Blast deals lightning damage. It's crazy. And when it works, as you just saw, it always works, you can do a lot of damage. 100 plus HP on each of these enemies, and it took me only 1 Eldritch Blast each. Yeah, crazy. But the fun don't stop there, baby. Hold on, we ain't done yet. We combine, so if you haven't seen this combo, I'm gonna put you on game. These 2 rings combined with each other, if you're a spellcaster, is super good. So, what do you get this? I think you get, okay, first of all, you get this necklace from the Kresh Inquisitor room, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you get it somewhere over there, okay? And I think you can also get 2 of these, so even if you missed the first one, you can get a second time. I don't know. Google it. This isn't that type of video, but I know it's like Act 2, early Act 2, late Act 1-ish, all right? Anyway, so the ring combo is what also adds even more damage on top of the build. So this is a ring, coruscation ring. When the wearer deals spell damage while illuminated by a light source, they also inflict radiating orb. This is where light, remember in the beginning of the video why I said while we're picking light, this is why we cast light on our weapon. Boom, Marco Heshkir. Now all our spells will inflict radiating orb, and radiating orb gives a debuff to anything it hits, giving them -1 attack rolls per remaining turn. So, for example, if you land 3 Eldritch Blasts, 1, 2, 3, they have -3 attack rolls because it says per. That's crazy. And of course, we hit so many times in one turn. If you focus down an enemy, not only will you do a lot of damage, but they'll be pretty useless themselves if they rely on attack rolls. Okay, and of course, we combine this radiating effect with the Callous Glow Ring, which deals an additional 2 points of damage, which is already the damage that you're doing, which is either force damage or lightning damage, and that will also add your modifiers on top of that, I believe. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that also works. All right. And yeah, this is a standard spellcasting combo. If you don't know about this combo, you know about it now, and you can get the coruscation ring from the Last Light Inn. If you just investigate underground a little bit, it's somewhere underground there. And the Callous Glow Ring can be found in the Vault of Balthazar. I might have just switched these locations, but I know that's where they're located. All right, so bing, bang, boom. And as far as the ranged weapon that I just chose a Darkfire short bow. This can work, or Gaunter Mail, any bow that gives haste. But I like this one because it gives also resistant to fire and cold damage, so a little bit of tankiness. And this just allows us to use haste without using a spell slot, right? So, woo! Those are the items. That's the build. As you saw, it does insane damage. And now I guess I should probably go over the item progression and optional items. So before I was using the Birthright, let's do, so I found this, Circlet of Blasting. This can be found in the Underdark Mycoloid colony at the Blurg vendor. The vendor that's not the little gnome girl, okay? And this is just a solid helm, and I used this until I found this one, the Hat of Fire Acuity. Again, our first 9 levels are fire, and whenever you deal fire damage with this hat, you gain Arcane Acuity, which means you have +1 bonus to your attack rolls and spell DCs. And you're pretty much looking for anything as you're leveling that gives you plus spell attack rolls and plus spell DCs. Those are the kind of items that you're looking for. And there's also a couple more hats that give +1 spell DC, which is what you're mainly looking for anyway, so just use one of those. But I found this one because, again, we are pure fire damage until level 9, all right? And then I used this until I found this, and I just switched to Birthright, okay? As far as the cloak goes, you can just use the Cloak of Protection. Cloak of Protection can be bought at the Last Light Inn at Quartermaster Tiali. As soon as you get there, buy it off of her. It's like for 100 gold. It's very cheap. You're going to use that until you find this. Cloak of Protection is insane. It's so good, all right? As far as the robe goes, you can find this robe pretty easily. Again, it's in Act 2. You can do this quest right when you hit Moonrise. Go to the prison, free the tieflings, you know what I'm saying? And then talk to Alfira at Last Light Inn. Get the robe. fucking, and then yeah, what I was using before this, I think I sold the item on accident. Whoopsie. What I was using before this was any type of clothing that gave me +1 spell DC, pretty much. Because again, we're not really a spell attacker for the first 9 levels. We are a spell caster, which means we want +1 spell DCs. So again, your hat, your chest, whatever gives +1 spell DC. And there are definitely a couple items that in vendors that I just can't recall right now that have it. Just use those. You know what I'm saying? Gloves, man. What gloves were I using? I guess I was using Daredevil gloves. You know what I'm saying? I guess I was using these, you know, just because I couldn't find. There really isn't that many gloves that give you +1 spell DC. There's the Hellduska gloves, which you get in Act 3. So, I mean, in Act 3, you're going to switch to these anyway. So, yeah, I just use any gloves. If you want to use defensive gloves, go ahead. But I just use these just because, you know what I'm saying? And optional gloves, again, are these Spellmite gloves. So Spellmite gloves actually deal a lot more damage than the quick spell gloves. The problem is it's very similar to the Great Weapon Master feat. It's very similar to the Sharpshooter feat, which pretty much you take a -5 penalty to your attack roll, but you deal an additional 1d8 damage. All right, and that 1d8 damage is the same type of damage that you deal. So again, your modifiers will be on top of that. But that -5 penalty is pretty harsh, you know. So I would recommend either if you have advantage, which you can do by the risky ring, which we'll talk about a little bit later. If you have advantage, or if you have crazy bless going on, you know, if you have super high accuracy, if you're being supported super well, then you can use these instead. These do a lot of damage, but for me, the quick spell gloves are just more consistent, and we want consistency. We always want to hit, and to be honest, you're already doing enough damage anyway, so you really don't need these. You just saw the amount of damage that I did without these gloves, so you don't really need those. But if you want to min-max, super min-max, and find a way to get advantage on your attacks, which can be done through a ring, then just use Spellmite gloves. All right. Boots. Honestly, just use these boots. These boots are too good. There's also boots that give you Dimension Door. Those can be used too, but those don't have the Nightwalker effect, and I just prefer not being able to be affected by those kind of conditions. It's really good, so I just use those boots. As far as so you're not going to have the dual wielder feat leveling up. So I would just use a staff on your first hand, and I would use something called Melf's staff. I think Shadowheart is holding on to it, but Melf's staff is basically a staff that gives you +1 to your spell save DCs and +1 to your spell attack rolls. That can be bought at the same Myconid Underdark vendor as the other items. You know what I'm saying? So you can buy that. It's over there. And you're probably going to be using a shield on your offhand as well. I think the best in slot shield, if you want to use a shield instead, is the Ketheric shield, because Ketheric shield +1 bonus spell save DC and spell attack rolls. Those are the stats you are looking for this type of build. Or if you want just more AC, you can use a +3 shield, or if you want more initiative and stuff, you can use Sentinel shield. There's a lot of good shield options in the game. Just find whatever you want to use. You know what I'm saying? As far as the necklace goes, this is definitely the best in slot for the Eldritch Blaster. But until you become an Eldritch Blaster, I would use the Magic Missile Amulet, which again can be found at the same vendor that I've been talking about the whole time. At Underdark, My Colony, I think his name is Blurg. He sells such good items. He sells this, Melf's Staff, Scorching Ray Helmet. Just really good items. So yeah, you can buy this off of him. Magic Missile shoots an additional dart, which is kind of huge early game, you know, and if you upcast Magic Missile, it basically upcast Magic Missile for you. So this is solid. You can get this early, you know what I'm saying? And you can also do, I was playing around with Lightning Blast with this, but it wasn't, it was a little confusing. I think this is just more, you know, simplified, the augmentation. But again, this was also kind of inconsistent because sometimes the game doesn't do the calculations correctly. So you can just use Spell Slot Restoration, +2 spell save DC, or this one, which just gives you advantage on your Constitution saving throws, which allows you to use better elixirs that aren't Peerless Focus. You can use like Bloodlust, which can give you an extra action. We'll talk about that a little later though. As far as rings, if you're using Spellmite gloves, If you're using Spellmight Gloves, you want to use the Risky Ring, which I have in another character. But the Risky Ring gives you advantage on your attack rolls, but gives you disadvantage on your saving throws. So yeah, it's pretty risky. Okay. But for me, I found that I did enough damage anyway, and applying a debuff plus doing damage with these two rings are killer together. They're so good together. And I found that using these rings with these gloves was just more consistent, and things were dying anyway. You know what I'm saying? So those are the items. Those are where you find the items. Those are the optional items. And I guess I should end the video off with saying, what elixir would I use? Peerless Focus. The elixir of Peerless Focus gives you advantage on your concentration checks. That's good if you're, because the thing is, haste is kind of a double-edged sword in a way. If you lose concentration on haste, not only is your haste gone, but you get stunned for a turn. It's called lethargic, all right? And it fucking sucks, okay? So you want to make sure you can make your concentration checks, and that's based on your constitution saves, okay? So elixir pure focus, I would use that if you're hasting every round. But if you just want to push as much damage as possible and you're not concerned with your concentration saves, then I would use the elixir of bloodlust, because if you kill something, it gives you an additional action per turn, and that means another Eldritch Blast, and that means something else is also dying. So an optimized turn, let's go ahead and something like this, okay? So, boom. What I would do, after a long rest at this level with all these items, I would first create sorcery points, and I would sacrifice all our level 2 spell slots for sorcery points. Why? Because we're not using them. We're using our first level spell slots for shield, and we're using our third level spell slots for haste. Okay? But level 2 spell slots, we don't need that shit. So we convert them. Now we have 12 sorcery points. And because of that, we can quicken spell 4 times. Okay? So let's just go ahead and show what a round would look like. Alright? So boom, I'm hasting. Boom. Now I have 2 actions and 2 bonus actions. Okay? So this is already 4 blasts right here. And assuming I kill something, that's 5 blasts because of the elixir of bloodlust. And then boom, quick spell gloves. Another Eldritch Blast. Quicken spell. Another Eldritch Blast. Okay? So if you're hasted with an elixir of bloodlust on, you get 5 Eldritch Blasts a turn. And each Eldritch Blast hits 3 times. Okay? So 3 times 5 is 15. I mean, we can go over the math if y'all want, but let me just break it down. It's a lot of fucking damage, okay? Y'all saw it in the beginning of the video. It's crazy damage. Can it be min-maxed more? Absolutely, you know what I mean? But I feel like I have... It's enough to where you just obliterate things. And just to show you guys how powerful this is, I was actually able to beat the game using only this character. I didn't use any NPCs. I didn't use any allies. I was able to beat the game solo with one character, and it was honestly a breeze because I combined the whole Darkness Devil Sight thing like I was talking about earlier. So Eldritch Blast Demon, super strong character, and yeah, these are the kind of builds that you guys can expect from me. I'm a little bit of a min-maxer, not completely, but I like to, I like to try hard, do some challenges. Right now, I'm trying to beat the game with only one character, killing every person in Baldur's Gate 3. I think that's what the video is going to be called. It's going to take a long time, but until then, I'm going to keep pumping out these videos. I just finished a playthrough where I basically, clicked on every nook and cranny. So I have pretty much every single item available in the game made for a lot of builds. So just expect a build guide per day from me. You know what I'm saying? I'm new around here, but I play a lot of games and I love this shit. So I'm trying to, spread this OP knowledge because Baldur's Gate 3 has a lot of possibilities. And I love this game. Game of the year, to be honest, and I don't think it's even close. But yeah, man, if y'all enjoyed that, y'all know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends, you know what I'm saying? I will come up with an OP build almost every day. And then, of course, when I finish my challenge run of killing every single person in Baldur's Gate 3 with one character, then I'll do that as well. But in any case, thank y'all for watching. I appreciate it. Eldritch Blast Demon, signing out. Y'all have a good one. Peace.